There's coffee in that nebula.
How you doing, fellas?
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's no decaf, is it?
Viennese cinnamon.
Viennese cinnamon. That's what I want.
It is Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week, Mittwoch, as they say in German, although I speak German badly, apparently, my girlfriend says. And I don't care because I'm American, and I speak how I want to.
That's American. By God, we're all Americans.
Oh man. This show is
I'm
brought
not.
to you by Delicious Fuel Up. We got Wake, that'll get you up in the morning. We got the Play, that'll keep you going during the day. And then Rest for the evening. And once again, if you use our code, you can get some of your own Fuel Up. Give it a try. Get that 30-day trial. Get it in you. Get it in you! Don't make mistakes like me where I apparently was doing it wrong. I was using it for a week, and someone said, you mix that in water, you don't snort it.
I tried to tell you, God damn it, Gary.
I know. It's always the cops. I never trust the cops, man. Pigs, man.
Tried to tell you.
It is Wednesday, guys, which means we're going to be talking about UFOs. And a lot of you that have come to the show is because of the fact I watch Skinwalker Ranch and I like to talk about it. It is an interesting program because right up front, when I first started watching it, I was curious, like, what is this bullshit? What the fuck is going on? Because I could care less about Skinwalker Ranch. I really never cared about it. I don't believe in that crap of the shapeshifters and all that stuff. Folklore. I'm sure they saw something when they were eating, what's that stuff called? Ayahuasca or, mushroom. Ayahuasca. You see a lot of shit when you smoke and eat some of the things they ate.
Or just plain mezcal.
Mezcal. I just always thought it was bullshit. By the way, that's baby Grogu right there, sleeping behind me. So let's not wake it. But I came into this intrigued because I have been a follower of Travis Taylor for a long time. I've read a lot of his research. I've read a lot of his books, and he's a lot like Brandenburg, in the fact that he writes rocket science stuff, but then he likes to write science fiction, just like John. And so I'm not surprised to know that John knows Travis, and Travis knows him, and he's somebody we probably should have invited on today to talk about this. But I didn't even think about it till just now. So my mess up. I apologize. But I learned something just before we went on air, and that our good friend and co-host of this show with me, Don Ecker, thinks the show is absolute bullshit, which I do not. So we're not at a crossroad like, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore, Don, because I love Don. Don teaches me stuff every fucking time we talk. But I disagree with him on this. And Don, go ahead. Throw out there what you think of the show.
Okay. Begin with my knowledge of Skinwalker, the Skinwalker Ranch goes back 25 plus years. Okay. Back to when the case first started to surface, and Bob Bigelow bought the ranch from the then owners after they, and I'm going to have to use a cop term, allegedly had all these experiences. Now, did something happen out there? Yes. I have no doubt that something happened out there. I know a little of the background of the previous owners. They had some weird things happen. Is that an area where weirdness does happen? Well, if you go back to the Navajo indigenous people, okay, that inhabited that area, according to the Navajo, was cursed. Now, indigenous peoples that lived there, by all accounts, avoid that area. They avoid it religiously. Now, when this case began to appear in the public, Robert Bigelow, Bigelow Hotels and Aerospace and all the stuff that he has going on, became fascinated by it. Now, Bigelow has had for decades an almost fanatical curiosity about UFOs and assorted paranormal phenomena. Now, 20 odd years ago, or maybe not quite 20, maybe 15, our former managing editor of UFO magazine, Renee Barnett, very dear, very, very close friend to Vicky and I, okay, wanted to move up and on, and she entered television production. She ended up becoming a television producer. And she was involved with the Jesse Ventura show. Do you remember that show, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Renee called me up one week and said, hey, Don, we're going to do a segment on Bob Bigelow. And I would love it if you would come on. We could interview you. And anything you have going back in UFO magazine, could you make that available? And I said, sure, be happy to do that. So we ended up doing a show. I did a lot of background. I did some deep diving then on Bigelow. And in full disclosure, I had another experience with the Bigelow people back in the probably latter 90s. My very, very dear friend, Richard Saraday, who has left us several years ago, passed on, had been friends for years with a TV producer by the name of Steve McMahon. McMahon had an extensive background going all the way back literally to 60 Minutes in the late 60s, early 70s, when 60 Minutes, the Sunday night CBS TV show, was at the top of their game. And McMahon, at that point, when I knew him, was doing a lot of other stuff, including commercials. So everybody knew that Bigelow had a UFO fascination. It was not hidden knowledge. And McMahon said, hey, he said, I've got a hell of an idea. he said, Don, he said, you're the director of research for UFO magazine. He said, you've done tons of TV. People know who you are. How would you like to do this commercial for the Bigelow people? So they sat down, they wrote out this commercial, and then we shot it. Okay. Now, Bigelow, although he and I had never met, certainly knew who I was. So when McMahon took that copy down to show the Bigelow people what he had done, and here was the guy from UFO magazine. I think it was for I think it was for a credit card thing. Bigelow looked at it and said no other explanation, and walked off. So I maybe somewhere along the line I pissed him off because at that time, and this, like everything in the UFO field, this shit gets so twisted up. There are connections that you never would have dreamed of that popped to the surface, and one of them was Art Bell. Now, how would Art Bell get involved in all this? Well, Bell was then doing Coast to Coast. He had come literally originally out of obscurity. Art was doing political talk radio on satellite before he ever did the UFO stuff. I was then doing UFO, my original show, UFOs Tonight, on CRN. So when Art came out, it was Bigelow that got behind Art Bell. And Art viewed me and my show as competition. Now, in full disclosure, Art had way many more listeners than I did when he went overnight. I mean, he had hundreds of over-the-air radio stations. So I personally never saw Art Bell as competition from my standpoint, because I kept or tried to keep my broadcast pure, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I would not entertain bullshit artists. And if they came on the show, I would call them out. And so anyway, to get back to the Bigelow thing. So when Renee came to me with this, we did this show, and Bigelow is notoriously shy. Okay, doesn't like to do a lot of media. Well, like I said, this show was all about Jesse Ventura. And Ventura literally tracked him down and ambushed him. Now, I don't know if you guys may have seen that show or not.
I didn't.
But yeah, it was very, very interesting. So anyway, Bigelow put together the NIDS organization for expressly Skinwalker Ranch. Now, NIDS stood for National Investigative Discovery. I forget now the rest of the acronym, but they began doing investigations. Now, one of the conduits that I got a lot of my information from about all this was via George Knapp. George Knapp, KLAS TV, television journalist. Everybody knows who George is, Channel 8. Knew Bigelow very, very well. And George became affiliated and associated with the ongoing scientific pursuit out at Skinwalker Ranch. Well, everything was kept hush, hush. Every once in a while, some things would slip out, would surface, And even like today, there were a lot of guys that were trying to infiltrate the ranch out there, okay, to get inside to find out what the hell was going on. Now, a couple of stories slipped out. One involved one night, George Knapp was out there, and they were eyeballing the terrain. It was nighttime, black as, the hinges of hell. And allegedly, an invisible creature or something destroyed one of the camera poles out there, and the camera where they were shooting infrared and various other things, night vision. Another story that came out involved one night, some of the scientists that were outside described viewing what appeared to be a portal opening and a humanoid shaped creature crawling out of this portal that was in thin air and then taking off. Now, there had been other weird stories that had been surfacing around Skinwalker for years. And I got to tell you, at that point, I had no idea what the hell to make out of it. Would I buy it all at face value? No, absolutely not. But one of the stories that I found, very intriguing was before Bigelow bought the ranch from the owners, that they had been cattle ranchers. And one day they were going out to perform some daily routine, might have been feeding some new young calves that they had. And suddenly they're looking up into the field, and this huge dog-like creature was walking toward them. And when I say huge, excuse me a second. When I say huge, I mean this thing was like 3, maybe 4 feet tall at the shoulder. And it did not appear threatening, according to the report. But this thing walked over toward one of the pens where they had several calves in there. And everybody, the rancher, his wife, the son, were standing there watching this thing in amazement. It appeared corporeal, very solid. I mean, it was not an illusion. And without warning, supposedly this wolf animal dog-like thing grabbed one of the calves through the fence and tried to pull it through the bars. Well, when that happened, of course, this rancher is looking at this thing in shock. He had been armed with the .357 Magnum revolver, pulled the revolver out, and shot this animal a number of times, hitting it in the side and the shoulders. And I don't know if you are aware of the power of a .357 Magnum with full loads, but it is a very potent handgun. And other than seeing the bullets strike this animal, the animal made no showing of distress. It didn't seem to be affected by the bullet strikes, and then suddenly let go of the calf, turn around and trotted off. Now, look, when I hear a story like that, I got to tell you, I still to this day don't know what to think about that. My bullshit indicators clang loudly. I have seen too many gunfights and things in my time. I have witnessed too many things shot by bullets in my life, and that's not how bullets operate, okay? You don't soak up bullets from a 357 Magnum at close range and don't appear affected by it, even if you're wearing Kevlar, okay? The impact of the bullets are going to screw you up. Well, I heard that and I just kind of shook my head. I talked to Knapp about it later. He said, yeah, he said, that's what the story was. He said, but that wasn't the weirdest thing. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, after Mr. Bigelow bought the ranch, he said, we were in there looking at the different buildings and what have you, and it was in the main house. He said, right off the kitchen was like a closet. And he said, I was looking around and he said, Don, he said, the closet door had a lock on it. Okay, well, what's weird about that? He said, well, the lock was on the inside. Now, do you know what I'm saying? The lock was on the inside. In other words, it was like a safe room. If something got into the house,
Right.
you went into the closet and you locked the freaking door.
From the inside.
From the inside. So I said, well, yeah, that's definitely weird. So anyway, then for a number of years, NIDS operated out there. Never an iota of official information was ever released by the NIDS organization. And hey, there were a lot of UFO groups, not the least of which was MUFON, NUFOC, others, okay, that were all demanding information. None was forthcoming. Then some other weird shit happened. And the other weird shit that happened involved Bigelow trying to put all the official UFO groups under one umbrella with his money. And guess who the guy was that was going to be calling all the shots for all
Bigelow.
these groups? Bigelow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I heard that, once again, my bullshit indicator went off, clanging loudly and long. All right. So, I got to be honest. I've dealt in my life with other people similar to Robert Bigelow. Okay. It's my way or the highway. And I can do that because I've got the pocket full of gold dust. And if you don't like it, hit the road. Okay. I've been around a lot of guys like that. And my hackles rise. Okay. I don't like some son of a bitch telling me what I can do, what I can't do, who I can talk to, who I can't talk to. It's just not me. It just rubs me the wrong way. So I was, in all honesty, I was distrustful. Well, after the NIDS group got done out there, excuse me, and Bigelow basically dissolved NIDS, none of the information was ever released. Nobody truly knows what they either discovered or they didn't discover. Nothing. Okay. Then George Knapp and another scientist that had been out there, Colin Kellner, went to Bigelow and told Bigelow they wanted to write a book about this, about the Skinwalker Ranch. Well, I do not know what all the ins and the outs were, but through my life experience, I am sure that Bigelow made a determination that before anything was released, he probably had to give his approval. After all, Kellner had worked for him, and George Knapp was very, very close to him. So I am positive in my own mind that Bigelow had to have the final word, but he gave them the go ahead. So they did. Now, immediately upon the release of the book, Vicky and I called up George, told him we'd like to come over. We wanted to do an interview with George, and Vicky and I wanted to review the book for UFO Magazine, which we ended up doing. So we drove over to Vegas, had a wonderful night with him, had dinner, etc., ad nauseum. And at the end of dinner, I said, George, I said, I got a question for you. I said, look, you and I have known each other a long time. You know what my background was, the military and the law enforcement and all that crap. I said, George, I want you, if you would, to intercede with Bob Bigelow and get me permission to go out to the ranch for 2, 3, maybe 4 days. All I want is access. I want to be able to go out there. I want to root around. I want to take some photos. I've got some equipment I'd like to take along. I've got night vision, equipment I'd like to use, and etc. Will you talk to him? And he said, okay, sure, I will. So I waited a few weeks, got back in touch with Knapp and said, well, did you talk to him? Yeah. Well, what did he say? No. That's it? He said, yep, that's it. So, okay. Then the next thing I heard, and it came from a guy, you may be familiar with his name, Dr. Jack Sarfati. Now, oh yeah, Sarfati. I've known Sarfati for years. And Jack Sarfati came out of the Bay Area back in the 80s and the 90s. They had, and this was early computer days for all of us. They had a group up there. I forget now what they called the group, but they had a lot of academics involved with it. And basically, it was to kick around the paranormal UFO subject. And some fascinating discussions were released through this group and Jack Sarfati. Now, when I met Jack Sarfati, he was one of those guys that you either liked or you formed the opinion he's the most miserable son of a bitch you ever talked to, okay?
By the way, Anima pulled up them sons of bitches. I got to play that because everybody wants it.
Those sons of bitches.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So I by this time I'm the director of research for UFO Magazine, and I had to basically ration my association with Jack because, hey, Jack could trigger me in a hot second by one of his snarky, miserable, goddamn, interaction with me. So he had written a paper. He's great for writing papers. He's already solved Warp Speed,
Oh
and
my
a
God, one
bunch
of
of
those
other
people.
things.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay. One of those people. Got you.
Yeah, he's already solved that. So he wrote this paper and he sent it down to UFO magazine. So we looked at it, and of course, if you publish anything, if you publish a magazine, a newspaper, whatever, okay, you know that you just don't start brand new as soon as the last issue goes out. You've got to have these things staked out for months, maybe a half a year, maybe even a year. These are the topics we're going to cover, okay? Because you've got to make contacts with your writers and all kinds of stuff. So we get this thing in from Sarfati, put it aside, and don't have any contact with Jack. Now, there's a reason I'm talking about Sarfati. So one day the phone rings at the magazine. I answer it, and it's Sarfati. And he said, "When in the hell are you people gonna publish my paper in your stupid goddamn magazine?" Now that's how, how he approached me. And looking back at it now, it makes me laugh. But he kind of
I guess you found his button. How dare you ignore me?
So I was kind of caught back, and then I thought, screw this. I said, "Well, Jack, I'll tell you. We're going to publish your stupid goddamn paper in our stupid magazine as soon as you find some fucking manners. Goodbye." And
I said goodbye, sir.
But the reason I mentioned Sarfati, and that's just a little background there on Jack, somebody called me up and said, "Hey, Don, have you heard?" I didn't know what the hell the guy was telling me. What have I heard? What? He said, "Well, I understand," and it came from Jack Sarfati, "that up at the Skinwalker Ranch, something strange happened up there, and somebody ended up dead." And I said, "Really?" Well, I know where this came from. I did a little investigation. I know who the people were that made this claim. None of them, by the way, had been at the Skinwalker Ranch when this alleged incident happened. So I said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do a little research on this, and I'll get back to you." So I immediately started calling some people, and at first it sounded plausible, but then as I talked to more people, I figured out it was bullshit. Okay, never happened. Well, Bigelow sold the ranch. Now, it was all top secret, hush, hush, who he sold it to. Nobody could find out nothing. Well, except I found out because I knew a television producer that had some involvement with this whole group and discovered who the guy was. Okay, Brian Fugel. So I started following this along. Now, Brian has a rather interesting background and backstory. And things immediately started to coalesce around this. His idea, and it happened, was to turn this into a television series or a series of TV shows. Okay. Now, what is the great mover and shaker in today's phony American culture? Television. Okay. Everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants to get their face on camera. And what sells? Drama. Okay. Drama sells. And excitement. And cliffhangers. And the Pearls of Pauline. The last episode, they left Pauline tied up on a railroad track with a steam engine coming. Oh my God, what's going to happen next? Well, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, okay, I kind of think they succeeded with this Skinwalker Ranch series. Now, the bottom line is, and this supersedes everything else, is there or are there not weird happenings going on out there? Now, several years ago, and I was talking to the guys before the show started about this. One day, I got a call from John Brandenburg, one of my closest friends. Everybody here knows John. John's a real, honest to God rocket scientist, okay? And Mars expert. I don't have to tell you all of John's accomplishments because we've talked about him here before. But he said, "Hey Don, have you heard about what happened out at Skinwalker Ranch?" And I told him, no, I'm not sure. He said, "You know who Travis Taylor is, right?" And I said, "Sure. I've seen Travis Taylor on a number of shows." He said, "Well, they were out there exploring around the ranch and they came across this thing that resembled a cistern, okay? And they took the lid off it and he was heavily irradiated." And I said, "You're kidding. Irradiated? What kind of radiation?" And he wasn't sure, or if he told me, I don't remember what exactly it was he said, but Travis was irradiated to the point that for a couple of weeks, when he urinated, he was urinating blood. Well, that was big news, okay? I was doing Dark Matters Radio, my radio show on KGRA, and I said, "John," I said, "my God, oh yeah, I want to get Travis on the show. I want to talk about this." And I said, "Hey, would you intercede and find out if he would be amenable to that?" So he said, "Sure." So apparently called Travis Taylor up, mentioned me, what I wanted to do. John got back to me and said, "Yeah, Travis is all up for it." He said, "Here's his phone number and his email address." So by this time, several weeks had passed, okay? And if Taylor didn't know who I was, then I'm sure he did his due diligence to find out what he could find out about me. I guess this is what I'm supposing. And I wrote him a letter, an email. Very nice, very complimentary. And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Let me know what you think. When would be a good time?" And I never heard a word. He never got back to me. He never acknowledged the email. So I wrote him again. And then I waited a little bit. Then with his phone number, I called up and I left several voicemails. Nothing. Not a word, not an acknowledgement, nothing. Okay. Now, I guess I got to say that with my life experience, that started to jingle some red flags for me, because it's not as if I'm unknown out there. All right. A lot of people, I've been doing this for a long time. Anybody in the field at least has heard my name. So I called John up and I said, John, I said, this is really strange. I've emailed the guy several times. I phoned him, left messages, nothing. He said, well, he said, I'll check with him. But he said, he told me originally he'd be happy to do it. Well, never heard another word about that. So that bespoke volumes to me. Now, I was telling Gary about this, and he said, well, he said, yeah. He said he may have been cautious because of, non-disclosure agreements he signed with the producers of the show and maybe with Brian Fugel or whatever. But I said, yeah, that's very possible. But the bottom line, by God, is manners. Okay? At least have the courtesy to get back to me and say, yeah, I got your notes and your messages, but for whatever reason, I've decided not to do it. That would only be civil. Okay? That would be civil. And he displayed no civility to me. So the bottom line was, I came to the conclusion, I think there's some bullshit afoot. Now, I talked to Gary about this. Gary, what was your conclusions?
Oh, look, I'm no Don Ecker.
Those sons of bitches.
I learned so much from you. So I always feel that if I'm ever a contrarian with you, I better come with something. And what it is my knowledge of behind the scenes stuff that deals with the technical aspects of making a show. And with this one, I don't think there is bullshit going on. I do believe that there are two things occurring. One was the timing, and he was deathly afraid. He even says it in this latest episode that he was afraid to tell anybody what he's doing with the Department of Defense being at the head of the UAP task force, or the UAE task force. And but I think that there is this fear that is generated by some people with you. I don't have it because I love talking to you. You're like absolutely one of my favorite human beings on this planet to sit and spend time with. But I think some people are fucking afraid of you, Don. And I think that a mixture between his the DOD putting a stranglehold on him and all of that he's been terrified to talk to someone like you. I don't think it's like he's afraid of you, but terrified to talk to you because of some of the shit that he's been under. And he, like I said, he brings it up in his very first episode of this season that he was on a tight leash and he was not allowed to say anything to anyone. And they were watching everything he was doing. And I guarantee you know they've got eyes on that ranch. And he knows that. So I think that as we move forward, we really do need to press to get him on the show, to talk to him. And I know that, if we get him on here, you're going to be very fair with him. I know that. but I want to make sure he's not afraid to come on the show. But speaking of rocket scientists, we've always got one in our pocket. We have John Brandenburg joining us here. Good morning, John.
Oh no, Brandenburg is
wait.
here.
We need proof that you're a
Is
rocket
that
scientist.
the rocket scientist?
You got to take your hat off for a second so everybody knows you're a rocket scientist. They got to see the bald head. There you go. No.
I got my hat off, right?
You got it off. You got it off. John, we
There,
love you,
Chrome
man.
Dome.
Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
I got a haircut this weekend.
I know.
Holy
Look
shit,
at
that
this.
looks
Look at
good.
this head of hair.
I still got this goddamn
See,
ponytail.
I got scalped by my first wife, who was part Native American.
Holy
We
shit.
refer to them as indigenous
Indigenous
peoples, John.
I got to tell you, now John knows I adore Travis. I really
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I've been reading his shit for a long time.
Oh, he's a great guy.
And I compared it.
Now,
The two
wait a
of you are
minute.
very similar.
Wait. John, did you hear what I was saying about Travis?
No. What? No. What'd you say?
Okay. All right.
Sum it up.
I relayed that several years ago, you and I were talking, and you told me about Travis Taylor telling you he was irradiated out at the ranch.
Yeah,
And I
believe
I
that's
said-
common knowledge now.
Yeah. And I said, John, I got to get him on Dark Matters Radio.
Yes,
So you contacted him.
but he glows in the dark, so that would be
Yeah.
hard.
Okay. So you contacted him, and he indicated to you he would be more than willing just to have me contact him.
Yes.
I ended up emailing him several times, trying to call him a couple of times, leaving messages, and he never even acknowledged my contacts.
That's show business, Don.
I
He's
suspect
under
John-
some kind of exclusive contract with.
I'm also going to
people.
say this, John, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The point when he made contact was still when he was under the gag order by the Department of Defense on who he could talk to and what he could say.
Oh, okay, and we all know that Don here is part of a dangerous militia.
Don, whether he understands it or not, can be pretty terrifying to some people. And,
Oh, yes.
And he doesn't make me nervous because I know he's got my best interest. But I know someone like Travis, when he's under that gag order, might have been afraid to talk to him. And I'm going to attribute
I think
it to
was
that.
just that he was under exclusive contract with the
You think
people
it's that
doing
too?
the Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, they didn't want him.
Because I know that
talking
right
to
around that
anybody.
same time, though, he had finally come out and admitted that he was at the head of this task force with George Knapp.
Yeah.
So was that before or after you tried calling him, Don?
This was years ago. This was
Oh, shit. Really?
4, maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, then I don't fucking know. I thought this was more recently.
No.
Nah, that's no excuse for it.
And common civility,
Always, you should be civil. Absolutely.
common civility would have dictated that he would at least acknowledge. And if he didn't want to come on,
Say so.
just send a note and say, well, I appreciate
Well, could
your
have just said,
interest.
I can't talk to you, because of the contract thing or something. But,
Yeah, that would have been the way to do it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. But in my defense of the show, the one thing I do know is that Travis, in order to come on, made the History Channel agree that they would not do any funny edits, no reality TV edits, that everything in the edit had to happen in chronological order. There would be no edits where something taken from later was put in early. He said, unless it was
he's
being
not a
shown
rocket
as an example.
scientist for nothing.
Yeah. He knew how reality TV worked, and he made
Yeah.
that part of the contract for him to come on. And he was talking about this in one of his interviews. He says they're not allowed to do any visual effects, sound effects. They're not allowed to do music cues to anything. that gives the feeling that this has been manipulated in any way. And it's the only way that he would agree to be on the show. So I don't think there's any bullshit in that department. But does that mean that there's not some bullshit going on? Look, I don't know if the Department of Defense is fucking with these guys. There's no telling. There's something going on. I've never cared. I've told both of you guys, I never cared about Skinwalker Ranch until this show. And then I went, oh my God, this isn't some weird fucking folklore like monster cryptids. This is something else. This is either extraterrestrial or interdimensional.
Here's what I told him. I was talking to Travis and the people he worked with at Skinwalker Ranch. We were at some meeting, and he talked to me earlier about getting irradiated, and I told him, I said, Travis, don't go back there. I turned to the people he worked with. I said, look, as a scientist, if you're looking at something that's dumber than you, you can study it. But if the thing you're looking at is smarter than you are and knows more than you are, then it's studying you. I just said, and you don't want to be in that situation. I said, Don, it's like going out in a place where you know there's minefields, Why do it? You say, oh, I'm going to learn a lot. No, you're not.
And the type of irradiation he hit, it's not like an exposure where it was an all over thing. It was directed.
Yes,
and that's the thing that freaks me out.
It hit him and nobody else.
It hit him in his hand.
Oh.
And went right through this area. I forget the name of it right now. Between the thumb and index finger. And it burned him.
Oh.
But then he got hit with another kind of radiation when he got sick.
Yeah.
In another episode. There's some weird shit going on there.
Oh, I would just stay away from that place. I don't know, Don, what do you think? If you were giving advice to Travis Taylor, what would you say?
Okay, here's the thing. Now, as I've indicated earlier, there's a lot about that ranch that just rings false to me. Not everything, but a lot of it does. But I have had several people discuss being followed home after
including
they've
George
been
Knapp,
out the
right?
ranch.
U.S. Knapp.
Yes. By an entity or something very similar to a poltergeist phenomenon, okay? And one of them that I asked was Knapp. And I said, George, these are the stories I've heard. You spent a lot of time out there. Did this happen to you? And he got very quiet for a moment. Then he just simply said, yeah. Now, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? So
this is an intelligence test.
That would be a question I would ask Travis Taylor. Okay. You spent a lot of time out there, Travis. Has any of it followed you home? That would be interesting.
Yeah, he in our conversations, he never shared anything like that, but that's okay. I'd heard enough when I heard he got a radiation dose. I said, Travis, don't go back there again. And
well, they have had
actually,
also.
I've been to Skinwalker Ranch myself. I haven't told anybody yet. I used to have a full
So that's what happened.
No,
all right, guys. Look, we're going to go to commercial break,
and I'm not going to go there either.
Yeah, we're going to go to commercial break. We'll be back in just a minute to talk some more about this stuff, and I will actually talk about what occurred on this first episode of the new season. We will get into this some more in a minute. Thank you, Chanel.
In a minute.
Hi, guys. This is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm gonna take it for the energy. I'm gonna take it for the play. I'm gonna take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. Yeah, guys, sounds half retarded, I tell you, every time I hear him.
Half?
Looks like another John joined us too, by the way. Our good friend Dust Wolfen is here this morning.
Yeah, I had insomnia and I forgot to set my alarm, so.
To remind you to wake up
Get
from
up.
not sleeping?
Yeah. Well, it took me, I didn't get sleep till like 4 a.m., so.
Yeah, it sounds like me sometimes. I get it. By the way, I loved in the ad that they say a jolt of energy and it made me think of this delicious thing, Jolt Cola. Does anybody remember this yet?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I lived on that for a while. Because like Mountain Dew is like when our company, because I worked in the IT department for years for TruckNet and iFleet. And we had our own soda machines and every single slot was Mountain Dew. It was like one version of Mountain Dew, because they had some interesting flavors in the 2000s. They got some really good stuff. And I don't know, man. Jolt Cola was my one break from Mountain Dew working in the IT department. And I always refer to the IT department as basically the next step down from working with rocket scientists, because you've never met a bigger bunch of nerds that if they're not rocket scientists, they're IT pros or robotics. Oh my God. I've had robotic friends. They're just, talking about robot engineers. They're so nerdy. Oh, everybody's back. They got their pee break.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Comfort stop.
Yeah, comfort stop. I want to get into some stuff here. First of all, we got some starred comments. One of those include Darius Munchausen, who gave us a $4 super sticker, which of course I know it's a pair of coffee with his coffee. Super sticker. Thank you so much, Darius. You are the man. I will play a video clip just for you. Let me get back into the main. I got to go to the main folder. And here you go. This video is for you, Darius.
You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed, English, giant, twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead, asshole.
We love you, Darius. So I wanted to go through some images real quick. One, everything about Skinwalker Ranch always reminds me of this story, which I did some artwork for the movie. Visitants is the story of the Hopkinsville incident, where in this movie, they're making it more demonic than what I think it was. I do believe it was interdimensional or extraterrestrial in nature. It was a shootout between a bunch of hardworking poor people, not rednecks. They were hardworking poor people. And during the Depression, and they got attacked and harassed by these things. And there were lights that were seen. It's a scary incident. But I think that there's something connected because there's a tunnel there. It's an old mine. And some refer to it as a gate to hell. I think it is something interdimensional, and I think it's scary as shit. And you find that with Skinwalker Ranch too. So in this episode, I'm just going to go into it real quick. Not much is said right off the bat. Travis makes it clear, and I'm talking about Travis Taylor, makes it clear that he was kind of apologizing to the guys because he couldn't let anybody know that he had been put at the head of the UATF, the new task force for the Pentagon, Department of Defense, for researching these UAEs. I hate using UAE. It's UFO.
It's UFO.
It's just their new.
They're moving the goalposts around,
I know it's ridiculous. But
Don has some experience with how the military likes to do things.
Yeah, we're not going to use UFO. We're going to call it something new, so we don't want to sound like those nerds. We want to be all new nerds. Anyway, so
well, it's like, and it's like they say, oh, we saw no signs of anything extraterrestrial. Then they show 2 videos. It's like,
and of
somebody
course,
robbed a bank, but we
Force.
don't know who did it. And here's a picture of Patty Hearst on the security camera.
Yeah, well,
we don't know who she is.
Because we know who's in charge of Space Force, which is the Air Force, and the Air Force is never going to ever admit to anything.
It's part of the UFO cover-up is part of their founding charter.
You may as well shit in one hand and wish in the other, and see which one gets filled up first, because that wish is the U.S. Air Force admitting to anything, and you'll have a handful of shit first before that ever happens. So I wanted to go over the new owner of the land is Brandon Fugel. I don't know what his game is. I don't understand.
Else does either.
Hollywood. I want to go
understand.
to Hollywood.
Well, this is the thing that concerns me is Bigelow. Why in the fuck did he sell this land? Why? It makes no sense to me.
Because he wasn't making any money off it.
The thing is, though, if he is in bed with the Department of Defense, why did he sell it? And so what I believe is going on that's under that mesa, I believe it's man-made. I believe that there's something down there, but I don't think it's what some people are wishing it's going to be. I think it is man-made.
Did you say if?
Well, I know something's down there. There is something down there.
No.
They've dug it up.
Bigelow in the Department of Defense. If
what? I'm lost.
Go back to sleep.
I'm trying to yeah. So I'm trying to get everything out because I gave the podium to Don for the first hour of this show, and I'm trying to get caught up with what the show. I wanted to get into what happened in this episode, and not very much happened. But there were 2 interesting things. One, Travis admitted and apologized for the fact that he couldn't talk about being with this task force. Brandon Fugel makes an appearance, and I'm still curious. I don't understand this. Like, if Bigelow knew that there was something under that mesa, he would never fucking sell it. That makes no sense to me. If he's in bed with the Department of Defense and they want to keep that shit silent, why would he fucking sell it?
Well, just because he's in bed with the Department of Defense doesn't mean he's getting what he wants in bed.
I guess. It's really confounding to me how that got sold. Brandon Fugel has hired some good people, thought he would get a good show out of this, but it's better than what he expected because I think there's shit really going on.
Well, and Don can speak to this better than I can. There is something going on at Skinwalker Ranch, but now there's all this hype and Hollywood stuff floating around it now. I mean, everything is,
they have captured on video actual aerial phenomena from what I believe is
they got some bright
UFOs.
Lights in the sky. Who the hell knows what they are?
Well, they did have a several years ago a mysterious death of a bovine animal out there. In other words,
you're right,
a cow. Okay.
A cow.
And they got that on camera when this thing died.
Yes. And
See, the
then
military would call it a bovine animal.
we screwed the pooch when they brought Linda Howe out there.
Oh, come on.
I don't know her very well. She's the journalist one. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
the journal?
Once
she's
upon a
former
time.
Miss Utah. Former Miss Utah. So Don,
Idaho.
So at one point or another,
Idaho.
she's very
Don't
bangable.
get
Idaho,
I'm sorry,
John.
Idaho.
Get your goddamn lesser known
Idaho.
states right. Goddamn rocket scientists don't know shit about geography.
Hey, I mean, I grew up in Oregon, and half of Oregon now wants to join Idaho.
Yeah. What do they got? Potatoes. That's
Potatoes.
it.
They got some great fishing and hunting there.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
One of the things again that Travis brings up is that material that was found, and the material they find under there is the exact same material that is used in the tiles of the shuttle, and still used for re-entry. And this is a combination that's clearly man-made or manufactured. So there's something buried under there, and I say buried because the cave system has been collapsed, and it was collapsed by Bigelow. And why? I don't know if we'll ever find out. I believe that there is a what could be considered a Stargate above there. They keep finding this stuff, and again, this episode, that is the one thing that occurs. They go up again over the east part of the ranch, and right when they get to this one spot, the same spot, they start running into air turbulence when there's no wind. There's no wind. And it's bizarre. You get this shit. You see the heated area behind the helicopter that shouldn't be there. You see that. During the flight, everything's going normal. Then all of a sudden, on camera, and as from the ground, as well as on the thermal cameras watching the scene, you see this helicopter is being buffeted in the air. And of course, there's Travis in the backseat trying to get readings. And we see, what's his name there? Fugel, whatever his name is.
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon Fugel there. And this is the part of the ranch that, also has that spiral on top of it. And it's like, what in the hell is going on? And we do know that several times they've had the phenomena that was caught on camera where something goes up and then it just disappears. Or it'll just suddenly appear right in the same area above the east part of the ranch.
Hey, it looks to me like there's some kind of interdimension, a place where there's some kind of interdimension.
Something going on, and it appears almost solid because when they fire rockets, they had one rocket go right up into that area, and it went up and then suddenly changed angle, trajectory.
That was my favorite part. That was my favorite.
You caught that too.
They were launching rockets.
That scared the shit out of me.
Out there launching rockets. I said, Travis, I'm just yelling at the Travis, get behind the pickup truck before that rocket goes off.
What I think of when I watch this show is a bunch of bugs around an electric light going, I think it's safe to touch this thing. Let's all fly into it. Because they're going to open a can of worms they're not prepared for eventually.
Of course.
And it's
you're messing around.
The question is,
can
they do it? Yes, but should they do it?
Yeah,
there
again, scientists.
Good question, Don.
This was written into the book, and it's in the film by
it's like digging
Michael
up
Crichton.
a German bomb from World War II and thinking, gee, is this a dud, or can we kind of
let's hammer it?
Let's
find out.
Let's hammer it a few times to see if it'll still go off,
Well, Michael Crichton was always asking that question. He couldn't understand scientists, and he was a scientist, medical scientist. Yeah. And he says the line. He gave it to the Malcolm, what's his name in Jurassic Park. Your scientists are so preoccupied with if they could do the thing, they don't ask should they do the thing. And this is the thing that I keep coming back to. When you start poking a hornet's nest, there's the inevitability that those hornets are going to get pissed off and sting the shit out of you. Now, I've been stung by hornets. And that's scary.
I've heard if you put on bug repellent, the hornets won't actually sting you, but I haven't done that experiment. Maybe you could speak to that, Don.
No.
Mosquito repellent will not work on hornets.
But look, something's going on this ranch, and they're capturing some stuff. I will tell you this: I do believe shenanigans do take place, so I'm not going to argue with Don on that. But when it comes to how this production is made, I know that the agreements that were made early on for his involvement absolutely excluded them from doing any kind of tinkering with the edits and adding effects. And I'm going to trust Travis because I've been following that guy for 15 years.
Travis
years.
is a solid guy. He's a solid guy. And
now, is he being fucked with?
Scientist too.
I'm not going to say that somebody's not fucking with him. And I do believe that the Department of Defense may be playing part in this because at least the U.S. Air Force.
Oh, because
I don't trust the U.S. Air Force at all.
They're part of the staff.
They're not military because they don't have the right haircuts for the military. There's something wrong with the Air Force, man.
Yeah.
Mustaches out to here, hair over their ears. I don't trust them. And they run Space Force, and Space Force goes, right after the UAP videos, right?
Right.
U.S. Space Force says, we have no knowledge or interest in that. You guys know what this gesture means. Yeah. Fuck the Space Force. Fuck the Air Force. Army all the way.
No. When you have a real war, guess who has the highest casualty rate of any combat service branch? It's the Air Force because they fly close air, and they lose a lot of flight crews. So
when I say fuck the Air Force, I mean command. I mean those guys upstairs,
nice,
armchair warriors. I have a problem with armchair warriors, but that's because I'm a grunt. Anyway, when the guy I wanted to go over some of the comments. We started some comments. I hope you're starring comments still, or am I the only one doing that? Let's see. Monkey Jeeves brought up the fact that NBC reported 6 cattle mutilations. I saw some of our friends in our network were mocking that, and I'm like,
down
look,
here
man,
in Texas. Now, let me tell you, there are places in the country where you can mutilate cattle, and it would.
This is up near New York, isn't it?
Texas.
This is up in New York area, isn't it? The most recent
we
ones?
We just had a batch of them down in Texas, and was near College Station, where Texas A&M is centered, and and let me tell you something. If a Texas rancher sees somebody on his land messing with his cows, cattle mutilation is considered terrible, but it's worse than terrible. It's considered rustling.
Yeah, it is.
Well, the one thing about cattle mutilation, and I investigated too as a criminal investigator.
Yeah.
Okay, cattle mutilations, after whatever the process is, will not be fodder for predators.
No.
Everything lets the carcass alone. Coyotes won't touch them.
And they're drained of blood.
Yes. They're exsanguinated. Their sexual organs are generally totally removed, surgically, I might add, with surgical precision. And they'll just lay there and dry up. Not even the coyotes.
And nothing will eat them. It's weird.
Nope, nothing will eat them.
So, by the way, Lady V Elements.
Jerry, I'll just mention, I heard of one incident where on the razor wire fence around the entrance to Cheyenne Mountain at one point, they found a castrated bull just hung there in the morning, hanging over the fence. Now there's a message right there. This is the horse head in the bed, for Space Command. So That's what we're dealing with, friends.
Not surprised. Look, look, I don't know what to make of him, and I rely completely on you guys, your knowledge, especially Don's knowledge on this stuff, and I trust it. But Lady V Element says, everybody gets so upset about the mutilated cows. Can we just take a moment of appreciation for them not leaving human experiments laying around to rot out in the open? I think that's nice.
Don can actually speak to that because I remember you made an inquiry of some of your buddies in law enforcement at the federal level and about human mutilations following the same pattern. And guess
what?
what?
Yes, I did.
Can you talk about that?
Not today. It's not something I want to go into today.
Yeah.
We'll make a whole episode about cattle and human mutilations. John Osteen says, I would so love to get Chris O'Brien on as a guest for this show to talk with Don about skinwalker, cattle mutilations, and related subjects. There we go. That'll be kind of fun. I don't know how to get a hold of him. I'll ask Bill.
I do.
Well, if John,
do you know how
just ask John Osteen. He knows how to get a hold of Chris O'Brien's, obviously.
Well, John Osteen, make use of yourself, man. Get us in contact. Don's talking about the aviary. That was earlier. Let's see. I was right. I said Kevin Smith. Oh, it's Monkey Jeebus derailing. We all know that Kevin Smith is a pussy and a psycho. A classic.
Jeebus, don't beat around the bush. Tell us what you really mean.
Well, he knows I don't like Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith is a hack. A classic. Should have been the C2C host, but you can't tell truth and get the Lindas, Burns, and others like that to be guests. I don't know who he's talking about. What's he talking about?
Okay.
I do.
What's he talking about, Don?
Okay. As I said way earlier in this show about Art Bell. Art Bell, I never considered Art to be competition. Art was the primary host of Coast to Coast. Nori is a extremely pale, almost opaque imitation of Art Bell when it comes to Coast. But Art was a showman. Art was not an arbiter for the truth. He wanted to get ratings and shows and oohs and ahs, and he did. He was a master at what he did. But it wasn't necessarily to get the real word out. That's and most people were perfectly happy with that. They wanted to sit around a campfire at night and hear ghost stories. Okay, that's fun. Now, when you're sitting around a campfire at night and you're talking about no shit, honest to God, real serial killer, that's a different ball of wax.
That is different. That is a lot different. That means you're sleeping with a gun, in your sleeping bag with you. The other thing is just, entertainment, basically, telling spooky stories around a campfire. And unfortunately, that's entertainment. They don't want to scare people. They don't want to talk about the really scary stuff. And
I got to tell you, Skinwalker Ranch scares the shit out of me.
I was on George Norrie the other night, and I thought it was a great interview. But what I found on Mars scares people, and but they seem to be holding up pretty good. It happened a long time ago, so that's one comfort.
Well, that makes me want to ask you the question, John, because Mark, not Mark Center, the other Mark,
Antonio.
Yeah, he says that your information is wrong, and I wanted to know, would you be interested in a debate with him?
Oh, sure.
Because I can set that up, and we can have you two.
I'd like Don to moderate.
Duke it out.
Too.
Yeah, Don will moderate, and I will sit going. I'll be like this with my popcorn.
Yeah, and are brass knuckles okay?
Kind of funny. I just saw some knuckle dusters that were on. Somebody shared the image. McDonald's knuckle dusters. They had the arch, the McDonald's arch on it.
Yeah.
And it had a drawing to promote it in the bag. It had a drawing of Ronald McDonald punching the Burger King with him. I started laughing at it. It's a real
there's
thing.
A lot of truth in that. It's a metaphor, but it's also very truthful. And sure, he wants to debate me. I'll be happy to debate him.
Well, I don't know if he wants to.
How many years did he work at nuclear weapons labs?
Yeah, I know. All I know is that somebody suggested it in our audience that you.
When he was on, I asked him about that, and he said he would be willing.
Would be willing to work at a
yeah,
nuclear
he
weapons
did say
lab?
that when you
no, to debate you.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Let's bring it.
I will set this up, dude. It will
Good.
happen. It will happen sometime soon. If we got to
All
skip
right.
talking about Skinwalker Ranch during the new season, I don't care. We can skip a week just to have you and Mark go at it.
I've
That'd
had
be fun.
people talking trash about me, and then I challenge them. I'm on various talk shows, and I challenge them to debates, and they won't show up.
Well, Mark D'Antonio is not. He's not a trasher. He doesn't.
He's not a
trash
trasher. What is he? Is how many? What degrees does he got?
He just. Well, you can ask him.
High school degree?
You can. No.
College degree?
He's an astronomer.
what?
John, he's an astronomer.
He's an astronomer.
Yeah.
I would love to debate him.
Well, there you go, guys. We will set that debate up. It'll be fun. Let's see. Bigelow sells ranch to creep who wants paranormal Disney World. Called Delaware to get papers on the guy when his lawyer closed Skinwalker's road. Cost too much to get around Biden land bureaucracy. And John, you can set up the Chris O'Brien thing. If you know him, set it up. What is it? Sarfati talk takes me to put off an aviary more Bigelow realm when I heard Don mention the dead human mute guy. I thought he was going to get into Chuck Zukowski, but glad we didn't go that way. I'm assuming you know what he's talking about, Don.
Yeah. Fodder for another day.
Another day.
That's
I grew up around
day.
Ted. He was the drummer in my dad's. What the fuck are you talking about, John?
They talk. John Osteen's mentioned Ted Phillips.
Oh, okay. Osteen says demons do the blood sacrifices to open the portals, and the black helicopters come in to close them.
Now wait a minute. I'm gonna check with Sam and Dean about that.
Sam and Dean, okay. Lady V says any
My
other animal
bullshit
species
meter is just
reportedly
gone off
mutilated.
scale at that last statement, by the way.
Yeah, okay. Lady V says any other animal species reportedly mutilated in other parts of the world. Don?
Oh,
Yes.
Well,
Everywhere.
actually, Don, you can speak to the fact that they didn't have many cattle mutilations in the Vietnam War where you served because cattle were much too valuable. They just mutilated human beings. Right?
Water buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very famous story that came out in the late 80s, courtesy of John Lear, who got it courtesy of a guy by the name of Bill English, who was a total fraud, a total bullshit artist, a guy that I knew. As a matter of fact, he was introduced to me as being former SF. I knew 5 minutes after I met him, it was total bullshit, stolen valor. And Lear ran with that. And it concerned a alleged across the fence operation into Laos that English claimed he had been a part of, to a B-52 that had been knocked down, And when this alleged SF team encountered the crash site, there were gray aliens there with a landed disc who were picking up body parts and storing them in containers. Now, Lear came out with that, and that was part of his original shtick that he was getting. Once again, we're talking about a story that is so long and convoluted that, and the reason I know so much about it is I lived it. I knew all the people involved.
Yes.
And English was a total moron, and not a word of truth to any of it.
Now,
So,
are you saying that you actually may have strayed across the border into Laos?
no, not
Oh,
me.
of course not. Of course not.
Not me. No, but English, and it was just totally fabricated. Totally,
Never saw Chapone, huh?
totally fabricated.
Oh, well, look, I grew up in Southern Oregon, and I'm also about half Irish when you count up all the genes and stuff. I'm half Viking.
Which half?
Well, I mean, I'm my grandmother was a fine old lady named Malloy, and on my father's side, and on my mother's side, I'm Icelandic, which means I'm Viking. And they tested the Icelanders' blood; they're half Irish because they raided Ireland so many.
That's
times.
right.
And so
that's where all the gingers came from.
Yeah, and so to me, growing up where I grew up, around a lot of people who were Irish and of Irish descent and being part Irish, no story could ever be told without some embellishment. I'll give you an example. During the Civil War, the Grant was marching down into Virginia. He's marching his army across these pontoon bridges, and they noticed that the troops would all just march across, four abreast on these pontoon bridges, unless it was an Irish unit. And the Irish would always go single file in the middle of the pontoon bridge. And somebody asked one of the war correspondents watching this, said, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, the older Irishmen have told the younger Irish recruits that there are giant alligators in the river. They can fight off 2 or 3 men at a time, on the pontoon bridges. So the younger Irish are afraid to be near the railings on these pontoon bridges. So there's my heritage. I'm a wee bit Irish, and I can tell you that not Irishman. A good Irish person will not be content with ever saying a story as they heard it. It's always got to be slightly embellished.
I always say this, that I am 88% Celt and 12% adopted Celt. It's like one German, one Kraut fucked his way into my family, and I got stuck with his name.
Well, the Angles and the Saxons, they were basically Krauts,
Very true. Because I actually did the research, and I lived over there. I lived in the UK and in Ireland, and I found Cassells.
With a name like Ecker. What am I, chopped liver?
Ecker, you're damn
one of them filthy Krauts.
You're even more Kraut than Brandenburg. And Jerry, I want you to know that my family got kicked out of Germany in 1754 because they wouldn't take off their hats for somebody in Berlin. And then not only that, they wouldn't take off their hats for somebody important, but then they shot their mouths off about it, which is very typical of my family. So the Brandenburgs. We just came from Brandenburg. That's why our name is Brandenburg.
But so often, it's like where you're from or what you did as a job. Working with animals and stuff like that. The name that always throws me off is Hancock. Like, what did they
Hey,
do?
You brought this up. I didn't, you know?
Well, what did they? And I've got a friend, Robert Hancock, I went to school with. We're still friends. I'm like, what did your family do? He goes, shut up. Speaking of high school friends, my friend Margaret Scott, this is her 1-year anniversary of surviving what should have been a fatal accident. And I'm giving her a shout out. Love you. Hope you're doing well. It's a whole year, man, of life that you almost had taken from you. So that's fantastic. She's still here. Of course, Anima's upset with me because of ginger bashing. I never bash gingers. I think they're the most amazing things on the planet. I have a son.
I've always
ginger.
thought very highly of them.
I have an ex and a current girlfriend who are gingers. I love gingers. Gingers are my kryptonite. Always have been. And I kissed the Blarney Stone, by the way, John.
There you go. More Blarney. More Blarney.
Yep. That's how my dad said I got the gift of the gab. Is
Absolutely.
from kissing at Blarney Stone.
Of course.
My
I
grandfather.
had a bunch of Irish students visit at the university where I was teaching, and they put me in charge for some reason of, kind of.
My grandfather, on my mother's father, came from the old sod. His name was Fay, F-A-Y. Okay.
F-A-Y.
F-A-Y, George S. Fay. And his family came over to the colonies 25 years before the revolution.
Right.
In indentured servitude. They were indentured. Guess what he ended up learning, what trade he learned? Gunsmithing.
Gunsmithing.
Yeah.
Oh, so he could.
In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. They were the original rifle smiths. They didn't make muskets, they made rifles. And he was making rifles when the unfortunate King John War began. Do you know what that is? King John's War?
King John's War? I didn't know there was one of those. I knew it was Queen Anne's War.
French Indian War.
Oh, the French Indian War.
One of the French and Indian Wars, yeah.
And all the way through the Revolution, as a matter of fact, according to our family history, the federal government fucked us. They still owed him for 20 muskets and rifles that the bastards never paid for during the Revolution.
Well, the U.S. government has not changed its habits.
No, they have not. So, yeah, but he ended up in Ireland during World War I, where he traveled there to see the old family area, and he kissed the Blarney Stone.
All right.
Gary. So
I'll have to go to old Ireland and kiss the Blarney Stone.
To kiss the Blarney Stone.
And this is one of my favorite things about it. The Irish in that area, and the Irish in general, love to say, "Oh, the local boys, they go in there and they pee on that stone at night." And I'm like,
more Blarney.
I like to know
Blarney.
how they wrap their dick around that fucking wall to pee on that stone. They're so full of shit. That's how much Blarney is in Ireland. They lie about shit like that.
They Blarney about the Blarney.
That's right. But I was 13 and I kissed that Blarney Stone, and my dad said, "Now you've got the gift of the gab, son." And I'm like,
there you go. Yeah, you get your own talk show.
Dad, what are you talking about? My
I
dad was full of shit.
I had these visiting Irish students, and just as an experiment, I spun a tale about this. There was this one graveyard near my hometown that everybody swore was haunted, called Gold Hill Graveyard. It was an old gold mining town and had a little graveyard. And so I started telling them this story at lunch one day, and they were just hypnotized by it, because I put in guys like Tim Collins and Sean McLaughlin. and I just thought, those guys just loved the story. They just loved it. And finally, when I got done with the story, they said, one of them said, "John, you're so full of shit." And I thought, oh, what a compliment.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
I'll tell you someday about the old Haunting of Gold Hill.
Haunting of Gold Hill.
Haunting of Gold Hill by Kelly Slough. Yes, right by Kelly Slough.
All I know is that some of the best gay jokes I ever heard were Irish jokes. Michael Fitzpatrick,
Sorry,
Patrick Fitzmichael. One of my favorite jokes, Irish jokes. I'll just go tell it here, and I know it'll crack Don up. What do you call an Irishman that loves his wife more than his beer?
I don't know.
My dad told me this joke. He goes, "You call him an Irish queer." I think I was 12 when he told me that joke, and I'm like,
"Oh my god!" Yeah. Hey, Jerry, something has come up. I'm gonna have to depart in about 5 minutes.
No worries. It was wonderful that you were able to drop in.
No, I'm so glad that I'm so glad to be on your show and talk about this shit. And
our show. Sorry, God damn it!
Don. I'm sorry.
You can leave now.
You are our official rocket scientist. You're part of the show now.
I know, and so I also do Blarney in addition to being a rocket scientist, and
I love hanging out with you, John. I'm so grateful that you showed up, man.
Well, I'm so pleased that you have Don on here, because to me, Don is reality. He is the voice of reality.
He is the grounded one in this relationship.
You are some kind of
anchor
stranded on Earth, Jerry. I'm sorry.
I went off. I went off this goddamn planet.
He's a shaved Sasquatch.
That's right.
This is what happens when the Sasquatch gets shaved, or what do they call that? The waxing. They wax me all over.
Oh, somebody asked me once, okay, Brandenburg, you're interested in dead civilizations on Mars and stuff. How come you're not interested in Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and things like that? I said, I put on my Irish hat and I said, Bill, when you like to eat wild mushrooms, you're especially careful which ones you eat. Meaning, if I'm going to be interested in strange stuff, I'm going to be
John, I got a movie recommendation for you.
What's that?
Sam Elliott is in it. It's titled The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
It's a good movie. I've watched it and I gave it a really good review. Sam Elliott is great in this movie.
Well, when did it come out?
4 years
recently.
Ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
It's not
The Man Who Killed Hitler. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
Sounds like a good Irish tale to me.
It's a crazy movie, dude. Watch it. I'm not going to tell you anything. It is so freaking good. But anyway, thanks for coming, John. We'll see you next time. Okay?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I gotta.
No worries, my friend.
Okay.
Be good, buddy. Be good.
Okay. Hey, you guys take care. Keep up that. Keep those
being
cards and letters coming. And you tell Robinson, I'll meet him at high noon. And he
We'll set this up on
be
here.
carrying his 6-gun. We'll meet at high noon in the middle of town.
Outstanding, my friend.
And if he don't,
I bet you he'll show up. It'll be a fun discussion.
I'm going to start talking trash about.
Do you ever notice how John has a really hard time saying goodbye?
Well, it's like Charlton Heston said in The Big Country, you sure take a long time to say goodbye.
All right. Goodbye, you guys.
See you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye, John.
Talk to you later.
Well, speaking of movies, by the way, Don, Monday I'm doing The Green Berets. And
I thought we were doing Tropic Thunder.
I put out suggestions by people, and my two favorites were anything with John Wayne. That was by Mags, and then I can't remember who said it. One of our audience said, "And whatever it is, make it bad." And I said, "You don't get better bad movies than the Green Berets," because I love that movie.
You should have been around when it first came out, and then listen.
I was a year old, I think, when it came out.
The non
65, right?
No, 68.
Oh, it was 4. Because I do remember seeing it as a kid with my dad. So I guess I was old enough to see it. Yeah, so I did see it.
Now, the only part of that movie that really resonated with me was when the 18 camp got overrun. That was some nervous
because that would happen to you personally a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And 4 years later. And I got to tell you, the movie, it tries really hard to be pro-soldier and patriotic. And I'll always give it that. But John Wayne took a perfectly good book and script and screwed it up by creating a fictional character just for him to be in the
now
movie.
As an aside, and this is just a little inside baseball information, I came back on emergency leave from Nam in December of 71. Okay, ended up being a death in my family, and flying into Pittsburgh, I was in jungle fatigues. Okay, literally, I came from Vietnam. I didn't have Class A's or anything. The only thing I had were jungle fatigues. So I flew into the States in December wearing a field jacket and my jungle fatigues. Well, I'm in coach, right? I'm flying, and this guy walks up to me, Asian guy, okay? And he said, "Are you just coming out of Vietnam?" And I looked up at him. I didn't know who the hell he was. And I said, yeah, I'm coming home on emergency leave. And he said, my dad was in John Wayne's movie, The Green Beret. And I looked at him, and I'm trying to figure out who the hell this guy was. And you know who his father was? The guy that played on Barney Miller.
Jack Sue.
Sue. Yeah.
I love Jack Sue. God, he died.
Cancer.
His death. He shouldn't have died. Oh, it was terrible.
This guy was in a band. They were going to Harrisburg to do a gig. And he said, I don't know what your schedule is. He said, but if you can get over there, he said, you can be my guest. Come on in. And he said, I'll get you liquored up. And I said, okay. Of course, I never ended up going, but I always thought about that. Yeah. This guy came up to me just out of the blue. That's the same flight where they moved me up to first class. Okay, sat me down behind a guy who ended up being an air marshal. I think they were afraid that I might try to hijack the airplane or something. Here I am in jungle fatigues, right?
Right.
But that was when Black September was doing all that airplane hijacking bullshit. Now, this may sound like Greek to most people, but during that period of time, that's when Arafat, the Arab guy with the Palestinians, they were making a real racket throughout the country. And Yasser Arafat, that was his name. That you may recognize from your history if you paid attention. Huh?
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yasser Arafat's a piece of shit.
But you remember hearing about Black September, right?
Oh, hell yeah. In fact, it inspired one of my short stories. And I called it Black November because I'm that so unoriginal.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you mean? Yeah. I think Don Ecker just shit on me. But I would like it if you join me for Monday's show, man. Anima is not going to be there this coming Monday. I'm so happy for it because she's going back to Vienna, and she's going to be doing girlfriend stuff in Vienna, and will not be available over the weekend or next week. So
fighting soldiers from the sky.
Yeah. That's a great song, dude. And it's in the movie. You know,
Barry
I love
Sadler.
That.
Hey, boss.
Barry Sadler.
What is it?
We have a breach. Yeah. And by Anima, no less.
Oh, Anima, you're so filthy. I'm glad you're my girlfriend. Let's see. What breach one does she want? She wants well, not that one. She'll want she likes this one of her favorites.
Everlight, protect Grog and the rest of our friends, wherever they are.
I don't know why she thinks that's so funny. My girlfriend's weird. We have approximately 10 minutes left to the show, and we'll just do kind of a wrap up, which is I'm going to be watching this show this season, see what they find out. I absolutely do believe the stuff is real that they're capturing. If they're doing any Hollywood stuff, it's unknown to the main cast that's on the show.
For a second there, I thought you were talking about From.
We will talk about From this Friday, and I'm expecting you to show up this time.
Yeah.
Leave me hanging. I'm sitting going, is Don going to get here? Where's Don? I'm talking about From. I got to tell you, I am not happy with episode 1 of the season 2.
I am.
There's a clear drop in the writing in this show. And also, and I'm not the only one who felt this way.
You got to get your mind right.
I wanted to reach through the screen and choke his wife.
You got to get your mind right. Okay.
Got to get my mind right.
I'm not gonna talk about his wife, but the lesbian fiance showing up. You see, there is something going on.
Do you think they're trying to say that these things are manipulating things?
Absolutely.
See, because that's the only way. I said the law of probability says that will never fucking happen. That it had to have been done on purpose. So, okay, we'll give it that. But I'm going to tell you that I wanted to choke out the wife. Underground, constantly, like, heavy breathing and talking out loud, knowing those things are around them. And it's like, how Victor didn't fucking turn and just choke her.
Yeah.
You shut the fuck up. I don't know. Because I wanted to go through the screen and do it.
Yeah.
And the daughter was very annoying. They conveniently left out some stuff. But the things I did like, I liked that the pot smoking rich dude stopped and listened to the little boy when he brought up the quest.
Jade. Now, what a gay name for a character.
Well, his character is gay. And so it's, but I love the fact that he stopped what he was doing and said, wait, what did you say? What quest? I fucking loved that moment. I was like, oh, and I liked, what was the other part I liked? Anima knows which part, because I commented on it. And then there's finally, we get to what I thought was the lighthouse. I thought he was in the lighthouse, but he's in a tower of some kind. And this looks like ancient tower, like an old castle.
Right.
We get some dude with
and
chicken
he goes
legs.
up through a well. That was a well.
A dry well, by the way.
Right.
And he can't, that pissed me off. There's no way with those shoes he couldn't spider crawl up that fucking thing. I've worn shoes like those. They're perfectly designed for doing exactly what he wanted to do. That was bullshit on the writing. But eventually the guy, like, Anima's like, how did he throw down the rope? I said, he didn't throw it, he kicked it. Obviously he kicked it.
Look,
but man, with those chicken legs.
The first 3 episodes of season 1, I already knew what I would have done had I been in that situation. First thing would have been to gather together a town meeting. Anybody who had any kind of military or paramilitary,
which the sheriff had,
get over here. Okay? Everybody get over here. Now, bullets aren't working on them. What might work? We got to test it. Edged weapons, blades, swords, machetes, and spears.
Pointy sticks.
Yes. Now,
well, we're going to be talking about it Friday. And I want you to join me Friday, Dawn. And we're going to go into this Friday. Because I'm not giving up on this show because I've invested too much into this show. And I'm hoping that they've got a new writer. Now, the new writer has a good background, but he is a J.J. Abrams acolyte. And so that makes me nervous. But I'm looking forward to Friday talking about From. And then Monday, I'd love it if he'd join me to talk about Green Berets. Because that is, it is a film. I went to see it with my dad and in the theater. And I was little, and it had a huge impact on me. And then, of course, my brother Steve, who I'm going to try to get on the show with us so I can introduce you to. So we can talk about his experiences in Vietnam. And the two of you can powwow while I sit back and eat popcorn. I will blend into the wall. I'll be John, Das Wolfen.
Hey, just so you know, pal, I'm still waiting. I'm waiting. I've been waiting for months and months and months now.
Hey, I'd rather owe you all my life than cheat you out of it, Don.
You promised me a bag of Black Rifle coffee, you lying son of a bitch.
Not lying. I'd rather owe you all my life than cheat you out of it. That's a rule my dad taught me. We're nearing the end of the show. Is there anything else we want to cover before we go? John, anything you want to talk about?
No. Just.
Oh, good. Thank God.
Oh my God, John! When did you show up?
Hey, Monkey Jeebus suggested that we do Falling Down, and
Michael
seeing
Douglas.
that you were in the movie, we should do that one.
Michael Douglas.
Because the joke is that he looks like Michael Douglas from that movie.
Yeah.
I want to shave.
What I think is going to be fun talking about is like what I love about that film at the end is how he has no idea he's the bad guy. And when it's finally revealed to him, he's so heartbroken by it because he thought he did everything right. He thought he was the good guy and he's the villain. Oh, man.
We got to wrap, boss.
Yeah, I know. I know how to read. Jesus Christ, man. Tell me how to do my damn job. I love you, Martine. Well, that's it, guys. We're going to get out of here. I'm looking forward to talking about From on Friday. And, of course, our TGIF, we'll plan that. So I want you guys to have a good week. Don't forget tomorrow is Brian's show, That 70s Rock Fan. I'm sure he's going to have some more rowdies on. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, this is all of them. Right. That's right. This is going to be exciting. Don't miss the show tomorrow. And of course, we'll be back Friday to talk about From, Florida Man, and the final 2 episodes coming up of Hello Tomorrow. One of the weirdest sci-fi shows I've ever seen that I do love. I love this show. I love how it ended. So anyway, let's get us out of here, Chanel. Thanks for being our producer.
Have a
Bye,
good
guys.
one, group. See you in 1.
We will be at p.m. Central Standard Time. Danger, sir. It's actor Zach Ward.